Well, police are continuing their investigation into this terrible story, the mutilation and killing of two young Soweto boys in Soweto. Our angry community members are calling for Moroka Police Station to be shut down. They say police in the area are not helpful and rarely follow up on any cases reported. No one has been arrested for the death of these two young boys, but a third child was able to escape. Police are hoping he'll lead them in the right direction and an arrest will be made soon. Let's head over to our reporter Manqoba Mchunu in Soweto this morning. And this is, if you listen to how these events unfolded, and this one boy who managed to escape, Manqoba, running back to his mother, describing what happened to these other two boys. It's just a devastating story. It's shocking, even for South African standards.
Well, it's quite devastating, Gareth, and I can tell you that many people here in Soweto are still reeling following those gruesome discoveries. Many of the community members that we spoke to yesterday saying that they're still in shock, Gareth. They're in disbelief at just the brutality of how these two young boys were killed. These were boys that were, very young, 5 and 6 years old. And these were children that, they had been hoping, were growing up in a safe environment. But of course, following this incident, it has left many of the community members fearing for their children's safety, with some of them saying that they are even scared to have their children playing outside in the streets in the afternoon, because the community is quite adamant, Gareth, that there could be a serial killer on the loose that is out, that is targeting young children. There are also those that say that this could possibly be multi-related, given the fact that both these two friends had been mutilated at the time. And when you look at the crime scenes and, the way that both of them were mutilated, it appears that there are similarities as far as the injuries that they suffered. Some of their organs, similar organs, had been removed, but also some of their facial organs have also been removed. So there are fears, Gareth, that this perhaps could be related to multi-killings. Of course, we quizzed the police on this, whether or not they will be investigating this, and they are saying, Gareth, that this, of course, will form part of the investigation. We know that an occult unit has also been deployed to look specifically at some of these allegations. But of course, the police saying that they're not going to rest, and they're going to ensure that they leave no stone unturned to try and find these killers.
We also need to talk about, thankfully, and very, very fortunately, at least one of these boys was able to escape. He managed to get back home. The reports I've been seeing, Manqoba, is that his mom didn't believe him at first, because it just seemed too unbelievable for words. But later on, they were able to realize these are the two boys who were reported missing as well. What do we know about the little boy who survived, the support that he's getting? I imagine counseling will be necessary. And do we know if his family has spoken out?
Well, Gareth is quite traumatized, and that's, the word that we heard from one of his family members. In fact, they were saying that even yesterday he was still calling out the name of his friends, the two friends that he was with. He's the boy that managed to escape from those kidnappers, and he then related what had happened to his parents. We understand that according to what he has told them so far, is that they were taken by a white taxi, and inside that white taxi they were then tied up, the three of them, and they had been then taken by this car which drove around, but he managed to escape, and that's when he had then rushed and ran back to his home. We understand that when he got home, Gareth, his parents didn't believe him. In fact, he got a hiding for the fact that it was now dark and he had not been back at home, and that's up until the late hours when the two boys were being searched. That's when then he had relayed that information of what had happened to them. And of course, We understand that he's also been speaking to police as well as social services that are also trying to provide some counseling. You understand, Gareth, that he's still quite traumatized by this incident, and of course I think having heard what had happened to his friends, he's quite emotional and traumatized. But we understand that the police will be using the information that they receive from him to try and perhaps piece together what happened and to try and find those that are responsible behind this killing. We understand that there's a task team that has been deployed to look specifically into this incident, and the provincial commissioner of SAPS here in Gauteng, Elias Mawela, saying that they're going to deploy resources, they're going to ensure that they arrest these perpetrators. But of course the community members are saying that they simply don't believe that the police will live up to this, given that already they have issues as far as the Moroka Police Station is concerned. Many of the community members were quite upset, Gareth, saying that the police do not service this community, saying that the police do not respond on time to crimes. In fact, they are saying that they now rely on patrollers, the community patrollers in the area, to keep them safe. And we know, Gareth, that these are the very community patrollers that have been involved in the search operations for this young man into the early hours of Thursday morning. And in fact, it was the community patrollers that had in fact found these two bodies, and they are the ones that had really been leading as far as trying to find these young boys is concerned. So the community is saying that they really don't have much trust in the police, and they were quite scathing yesterday. In fact, even hurling insults at the police on the scene, saying that they are the ones that are failing them. But of course, Gareth, as things stand, those investigations are still continuing. We understand that that team will continue with the investigation to look at whether or not they can be able to find these suspects.
Yeah, and certainly going to be a very, very worrying weekend for the community as well. Hopefully more visible policing on the ground as well. A devastating story, as I said, even by South African standards, the way these two boys were killed and mutilated in Soweto. Thankfully, there was a third boy, but he was able, we understand, to escape. Manqoba, you're going to stay on the story for us. We'll come back to you again later in the morning. eNCA reporter Manqoba Mchunu out for us in Soweto.